Anger is an inescapable part of the human experience. It is a natural, instinctive reaction to feeling threatened, wronged, or hurt. Yet despite its widespread presence, anger often becomes one of our greatest adversaries. Left unchecked, it can spiral out of control, leading us to act in ways that we later regret. It clouds our judgment, damages relationships, and shatters our peace. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest philosophers and a Roman emperor, wisely remarked, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" We've all been there, moments when anger overtakes our better judgment. Think of the times when you allowed your frustration to dictate your actions, only to look back later and wonder, why did I let that happen? At its worst, anger can cause irreparable damage. At its best, it's a fleeting emotion that disturbs the peace for a moment, but doesn't linger. Yet, regardless of its intensity, it's clear that unchecked anger serves as an obstacle to the best version of ourselves. However, this doesn't mean that we are helpless in the face of anger. Stoic philosophy offers us practical tools for managing and controlling our emotions, especially anger. The good news is that by applying certain Stoic principles, we can transform anger from a destructive force into a source of personal growth and wisdom. In this guide, we will explore simple yet profound Stoic practices to help us deal with anger effectively. These techniques don't simply allow us to suppress anger, but guide us toward responding to it with clarity, calmness, and rationality. By incorporating these practices into our daily lives, we can learn to free ourselves from the grip of anger, allowing peace and tranquility to take their rightful place. Now, let's explore 7 essential Stoic practices to help you conquer anger and restore balance in your life. Practice 1. Emotional awareness. The foundation of self-mastery. Anger is powerful. It arises quickly, often without warning, and can easily cloud our judgment. But in the Stoic tradition, acknowledging anger is not about denying it, it's about understanding it. The first step in dealing with anger is cultivating emotional awareness. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that the mind is the only thing we can control. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, while we can't control the things that make us angry, we can control how we respond to them. Imagine you're in a car during rush hour, and another driver honks loudly, cuts in front of you, and continues on their way without any apology. The rush of frustration and anger is immediate. In that moment, the instinct is to retaliate, perhaps by honking back, speeding up, or even shouting. But before acting on that impulse, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, why am I angry? What caused this feeling? Will responding help the situation, or will it only escalate things? This pause, a moment of self-awareness, is the practice of emotional awareness in action. It's not about denying the frustration or anger. Rather, it's about creating space between the trigger and your response. By asking yourself these questions, you recognize the source of your emotion. More importantly, you regain control. In that moment, you can choose a more thoughtful and composed response, demonstrating self-control, clarity, and wisdom. It's in these moments that we realize anger need not govern us. By becoming aware of it, we take the first step toward transforming it. Practice 2. Pause before reacting. The power of reflection. The Stoics believed in the power of reflection. They taught us that before reacting to anger, it's important to pause and reflect. This practice allows us to distance ourselves from the immediate emotional reaction, giving us space to evaluate the situation rationally. Anger often arises from what we perceive as an injustice. But not everything that triggers us is truly an injustice. Often what feels like an offense is simply an interpretation or misunderstanding. Take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, is this worth my anger? Will my reaction help or hinder the situation? Sometimes the very act of pausing allows us to see the bigger picture. As Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, advised, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By recognizing that our reactions are within our control, we can choose a path that aligns with our values, rather than one dictated by unchecked emotion. Practice 3. Reframing the situation, the Stoic view of challenges. A cornerstone of Stoicism is the practice of reframing our perception of events. The Stoics recognized that our judgments about events, rather than the events themselves, are what cause us to suffer. When we feel anger rising, it's often because we are interpreting the situation as unfair or unjust. But what if we changed our perspective? For instance, if someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of viewing it as an affront to your dignity or a personal attack, reframe the situation. Consider that the driver may be in a hurry, stressed or distracted, rather than assuming malice. This shift in perspective diminishes the emotional charge associated with the event and helps you avoid anger. By reframing, we recognize that many of the things that provoke us are beyond our control and don't deserve our emotional energy. Practice 4. Practicing forgiveness, letting go of resentment. A core principle in Stoic philosophy is the practice of forgiveness. While anger is a natural emotion, holding on to it can create long-term suffering. The Stoics believed that forgiveness is not about condoning someone else's behavior, but about releasing the hold that the offense has over you. As Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Anger, if not controlled, becomes revenge." To forgive is to free yourself from the chains of bitterness and resentment. It doesn't mean you forget or condone the wrongdoing, but rather that you choose to release the emotional weight associated with it. When we forgive, we reclaim our inner peace and allow ourselves to move forward without the burden of past grievances. Practice 5. Embracing imperfection, accepting the nature of life. One of the fundamental teachings of Stoicism is the acceptance of the imperfection of life. We cannot control everything that happens to us, nor can we control the actions of others. When we expect perfection, either in ourselves or others, we set ourselves up for frustration and anger. Stoics urge us to embrace life as it is, recognizing that imperfections are part of the human experience. By accepting the inherent flaws in ourselves and others, we reduce the emotional impact of anger. Instead of reacting with frustration when things don't go our way, we accept that challenges are a natural part of life. This shift in mindset fosters resilience and helps us deal with anger in a more balanced way. Practice 6. Journaling, a tool for self-reflection and clarity. Journaling is a powerful Stoic practice that allows us to gain clarity and insight into our emotions. By writing down our thoughts and feelings, we can examine the root causes of our anger and gain perspective on the situation. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius regularly use journaling as a way to reflect on their actions, thoughts, and emotions. When anger arises, take a few moments to write about the situation. What triggered your anger? How did you react? And how do you wish you had responded? What lesson can you learn from this experience? This practice helps us identify patterns in our emotional responses and gives us the tools to handle similar situations better in the future. Practice 7. The focus on virtue, aligning our actions with our values. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the pursuit of virtue. Stoics believe that our true happiness comes from living in accordance with our virtues, not from external circumstances. When we are confronted with anger, we have the opportunity to align our response with our core values of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. In any situation that triggers anger, ask yourself, what is the virtuous response? Rather than acting impulsively, consider how you can respond with wisdom and composure. By focusing on virtue, we not only master our anger but also become better versions of ourselves. Conclusion: the Stoic path to emotional freedom. Anger, though natural, need not control us. Stoic philosophy offers us a framework to understand, manage, and transform our emotional responses. Through practices like emotional awareness, pausing before reacting, reframing situations, practicing forgiveness, embracing imperfection, journaling, and focusing on virtue, we can cultivate a calm and measured response to the challenges of life. The path to mastering anger is not easy. It requires patience, self-reflection, and continuous practice. But by committing to these Stoic